Hey everyone, my name is Matt Mitchell and I'm the owner of Mitchell Event Planning. I'm a master certified wedding planner and ambassador through the Bridal Society, which is the leading wedding planning certification program in the world and the largest membership of certified wedding planners and venues. We at the Bridal Society know how important hiring an educated wedding planner or coordinator is. The Bridal Society is a wedding planner lifestyle membership and certification program focused on raising the standards in the industry and ensuring that all couples have an opportunity to have the wedding day of their dreams. Today, we are back for episode 2 of It Takes Two. If you've missed last month's interview with Carla Duncan, be sure to check it out. Today, I am talking to Jacod Deaton, who is the owner of Shindig My Event. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Jacob, this isn't the first time that you and I have done this. You were kind enough to invite me to your podcast back in January, which is Southern Wedding Professionals. I'll be sure to link that in the description field below so that everyone can check that out. But how have you been since we last talked?
I think everybody in the industry is a little exhausted.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that right now. Throughout the pandemic, for me, I saw it as an opportunity rather than focusing on the negative stuff. I would say I really saw it as an opportunity to really develop my business from the inside out and change some things that I really wanted to change. And so really after about 2 weeks of this whole pandemic thing, leading up to when I talked to you, I was working insane hours. And then we talked, and then, shortly thereafter, it seems like the world is trying to reopen, and then the floodgates kind of opened, as it does for all the people, and trying to reschedule things and booking weddings on weird days like Mondays and stuff. And so, I was just actually checking my calendar right before I got on this call with you. Like I have an event on Thursday that just happened last night, and then I also have a wedding on Monday coming up, and I'm just like, what is this world that we're living in?
It's definitely a new one. So you mentioned spending some time to your business while we had a little bit of downtime in 2020. Why don't you tell me more about your company, Shindig My Event?
Sure. So Shindig My Event is a one-stop shop for all things entertainment in the wedding community. We do things like just staffing bands and such. We have 3 exclusive bands on our roster that we represent and that we proudly represent and give to our bride and grooms or our wedding planners that reach out to us for recommendations. All 3 of them sort of have different specialties within the idiom of music, sort of to cover all. Of course, there's always standard repertoire that happens with weddings and such. So,
sure.
But each one of them sort of have niches within that. But what's something that's really unique about these bands are that they're not your typical wedding bands in that, they do a lot of other type of events too, which brings a different energy, I believe, to the wedding events that we curate music for. These bands are playing festivals with thousands of people and turning around and also offering their services to your wedding. So it's kind of an interesting twist on the typical model. Which is, get a group of musicians together that are good and learn the wedding repertoire and then, call it something and go do it. Like these bands are actually doing something beyond just private events, which is really cool.
Yeah. So that's a great kind of segue into the next question, which is, okay, they have this experience. You have this experience in kind of the entertainment industry. So what kind of inspired you to start tapping into the wedding world?
I think early on in my music, I've been a musician for like 17 years professionally. So as my full-time job and not having any other job. So always say that like something happens early on in life and it kind of points you in a direction. And whether you choose to, acknowledge it or not, it still lingers around you until you do. In my case, it was when I first started playing music, I was just out of the military. So I wasn't a typical 22-year-old kid playing music and, doing typical 22-year-old year-old kid things. I kind of already had this, sense of responsibility, I guess, that was really instilled from my parents, but then also managing an $83 billion airfield every day.
Yep.
So it was when I got into weddings and events, beyond just my music career evolving, I started getting calls from people just before all that, just asking me to like staff events and like,
Hmm.
hey, I have a gala. Hey, I have this office party. Hey, I have, I need music for this birthday party or whatever. And it sort of evolved into, hey, I need a band for a wedding. And
Hmm.
so I started playing weddings. I said, yeah, I'll do it. I'll get a group of guys together. We'll rehearse. We'll put it all together. And then I found out that I really liked weddings because weddings were cool. It was like people were there to, have a great time. And you
Right.
didn't really have to push them that hard aside from just, being energetic and being very available to their wants and needs. So it's sort of like the detailed natures of what takes for entertainment to execute a perfect wedding, combined with sort of like my ability to tie my shoes and answer an email,
All right.
things that musicians maybe aren't always so good at. And my tolerance, I guess, for my poor musicians and all my friends that I love, that maybe aren't so good at the business side of stuff. I realized that I was sitting in between, um, I was sitting in between an opportunity to not only take care of musicians that I love that are unbelievable and that need to make money as and as doing their art that they love so much, and then
Right.
clients that really wanted something different, that really wanted something that was palpably like just different on their wedding day. And so that's sort of how I came to fall into this little gap. And so I did this for years without ever formally calling it anything. And
Hmm.
then one day, in my dense skull, it finally realized that I was like, it's time for me to brand this thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's where, the world has taken me to this point.
Awesome. So again, I think you're doing a good job of the segueing here. So you mentioned kind of doing the work before you officially decided to brand it. So what is one thing that you wish you had known before you really started your career?
I wish I would have understood the power of like trusting people or trusting people.
Hmm.
And I'm going to expand upon that a little bit,
Sure. Please.
like, especially like within your organization. So I am a guy that will 100% work 17 hours in a day,
Hmm.
go to bed for the remaining hours of the day, wake up the next day, and keep going. And I will
Right.
do that for weeks and months and years on end. And I think I have a pretty sterling reputation for that, whether you see that as good or bad, with my friends. But I, I just, I realized too far late in the beginning that like I needed the ability to trust people and to
Hmm.
train people and to bring a team of people together, because ultimately I was realizing that um, what really makes a perfect wedding is a perfectly crafted team of people,
Hmm. Yeah.
not Jacob working 17 hours. So when I sort of had this realization many years ago, it totally flipped my perspective on how things should be ran, as how my organization should be ran. And so, I'm very excited about the progress that we've made. And yeah,
Yeah. Hey, I agree with you 110%. You can imagine as a wedding planner, very top A personality, detail oriented, like I have to have my hand on everything, but I agree 100%. You have to, have some oversight, but definitely trust those around you to be able to help you out, right? Because you can't do it all by yourself. You have to rely on those around you to help you execute something. So good points. So okay, let's see. What about a common myth? Is there any kind of common? There's plenty with wedding planning. Is there any common myths in the entertainment band space that you'd want to debunk for wedding couples out there?
Sure. That all bands are built the same. That
Yeah.
all bands are the same, because they're not. Um, you know, I've played in weddings before I owned my own entertainment company. Before I played in, before I owned my own wedding bands and stuff like that. Like before I did it. Hands on. I was the guitar player at hundreds of weddings, and um, the things that like I always tell clients whenever they're talking to me, and that they, these people are, they love music because they
Hmm.
wouldn't be talking to you if they didn't, right?
That's right.
And they just want a great party, and they
Yeah.
don't know how to articulate, what it is they want, and they also, that leaves opportunity for making the wrong decision. So, I tell people to ask several questions, and I'll give them to you now, just
Yeah,
over.
please.
Sure, everybody will hear this, but
Good
um,
nuggets.
yeah, exactly. And some of these are going to be completely ridiculous, but hang with me. There's reasons. The first question I would ask is your band a actual band of musicians that routinely play together, or are you a staffing service? A lot
Hmm.
of people don't realize that when they're buying a band that looks like a brand online, they're actually buying a staffing service. And what that means is, just like you go and you go online and you look for a plumber, and you find a website that has plumbers, and you type that in, and then somebody from Joe Schmo's Plumbing comes to your door, and you're like, wait, that wasn't the same. That,
Hmm.
that guy wasn't in the photo. That guy
Right.
wasn't in, like, it wasn't very clearly defined that it's a, that there was a middleman here. And, it's very much the same thing. A lot of staffing services are great because they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Hmm.
Total perks to hiring a staffing service, because chances are, whatever your day is, you're not going to be short a band. But depending on how popular your day is, you might get the 17th rated band of the day,
Yeah.
depending on how proactive you were in your planning. So it's the biggest, that's like the biggest thing, or one of the biggest tools. The other thing I'd ask is, like, does your band regularly rehearse, and if so, when and for how long? It's okay to ask that question. A lot of bands play, um, all the time, and so they might even, I've even heard clients come back to me and say, hey, you actually were right, I went and asked this question, and they said, oh, well, we do this all the time, we don't need to rehearse. Well, I find that to be uh, very, repulsive, for the fact that they're paying you thousands of dollars to be there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're not going to go through the wedding songs or the first dance song arrangements before you show up the day up to do it at sound check. Okay, so, like, that's another question I like to ask, or I like to tell my clients to ask if they're, shopping around.
Hmm.
Another thing, I ask them is to just ask them about their follow-up process. Like, when are they going to reach out to you? I've made it a point, and within my own company, and I just do this because I think it's the right way to do things. I reach out to my couples and or wedding planners up to 5 times before our event is to take place. And that starts day one, right after we get done with signing the contract and deposits and all that kind of stuff, with, let's talk about songs.
Yeah.
It's never too early enough to start getting that information, and getting that out of people, and sort of stirring their mind, because you're not going to be able to put together an effective arrangement a week before the show, that's going to sound good and that's going to be delivered well. Especially if you're not rehearsing.
Yeah.
Um, so these are some of the things that I always like to ask people. It's like, make sure you're really specific about your questions. If you go to a showcase to watch a band play, make sure you ask, are these the people that are going to be at my wedding? Like, these exact people? If they're a staffing service, there's no way they can guarantee that. And so
Hmm.
what you're doing is trusting in a brand to staff people to show up and do a good job. And sometimes it's not even the singers that you like. So,
Yeah.
not to make it too negative, because I honestly think there's wonderful, like I said, there's wonderful advantages to having a staffing service. Like I said, the days are always open, always
Yeah.
open for business. You are gonna get a band, because, and the same thing happens in the photography world.
Hmm.
There's like a photography website, I can't remember the name of it, but they staff hundreds of photographers in a region every week.
Hmm.
And you think you're buying something, but it's actually another thing. So it's very common in the industry. Just know, are you buying a band that rehearses regularly, that's very common, and like has worked out arrangements and stuff, that rehearse together, that play together, there's a sense of camaraderie. Also, it's really important to ask about the sound.
Right.
Like, what kind of sound are you bringing? Now, you may not understand technical terms as a client, but I will say this. if there's no dedicated sound engineer out front running your event, then you're not getting what you paid for.
Yeah, I will 100% amen on that one.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the first thing, squealing mics,
Hmm.
and those are things you just don't want to happen. I always say that, it's, we always bring, two sound engineers to each event that we do, to make sure, at least two, just to make sure that it's, a very smoothly ran event. And the value that you get by, nobody's ever been to a concert that didn't have somebody out front pushing the buttons. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go to any major concert that you love, or the band, your favorite band in the world, there's always somebody back there sliding the fader. So these are some questions you could ask, and you might be surprised by the answers that you get, but
Hmm.
also you'll be enlightened and informed about making a decision.
Yeah, it's all about education, because our clients, they don't do this on a regular basis, right? They're not going out and hiring wedding professionals on the daily basis. So, it's really important for us as vendors to make sure that they're informed of what are their correct questions to be asking, to make sure that they have all the information that they need in order to make an informed hiring decision. So, those are great points,
It
and
really,
something that I love to do for my clients too. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, it just really comes down to making sure that you're getting the value for the dollar that you spend.
Yep.
If
Yep.
you're spending $2,800 on a wedding band, you're going to get $2,800 value.
Hmm.
If you're spending $10,000 on a band, you better be getting $10,000 value. And that
Yep.
person on the other end of the phone, better be willing to walk you through all the things so that you understand what you're getting. And so that's, for me, that's my biggest thing, is I'll always want to show the maximum amount of value that we can, because these people do desperately want a great party for their day,
Hmm.
and but they just don't know what they're walking into. So it is a 100% an educational effort.
Yeah. So one of the other points that you mentioned was reaching out to the planner whenever you kind of doing the onboarding with your clients. So tell me a little bit more about your experience with planners. So out of the number of weddings that you take on, do you know kind of the percentage of just planners versus certified wedding planners? And if so, what is kind of that breakdown?
I can't tell you the certified wedding
Hmm.
number. Um, I can tell you that, I've met some planners that definitely called themselves planners that are 100% not planners.
Hmm.
That they, I don't know if they just got into this because, they planned their own wedding and they thought that was really exciting. That's a very common thing. And
I
sometimes
agree.
you meet people that did do that, and they came out to be amazing planners. Sometimes you didn't, or sometimes you don't. But like, I would say that it seems like it's becoming more and more of a trend for me to see planners have little badges on their website saying that they are certified and they've been through a school and they've learned the tools of the trade, and they've learned, what do you do when this happens, or how to handle this situation. That's what school's for.
Hmm.
And so, I'm not going to say that it's impossible to run a wedding without a certified wedding badge, but I am going to say that that should make a client feel comfortable knowing that there's been some sort of education specifically for the event in which they're planning, and that this person has been through and passed. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, education is key for anything, right? I mean, you don't know until you're taught, right? So I
right.
think having those credentials is an amazing thing, and just can make sure that everyone is up to speed and is really kind of putting their best foot forward and doing the most for their clients. So you've had, whether they're certified or not, you've had it on both ends. So can you tell me maybe a mishap that you've had as on the band side, through maybe lack of planning?
Yeah. Just recently I had an event that the client signed a contract for a 4 hour block of time,
Hmm.
for performance time. And a week before the big event, um, all of a sudden the timeline changed, from all of our track. It was like leading up to 90 days, 60 days, 30 days. We always do these check-ins just to make sure that everything is good and everything's still tracking and everything's still contractually right. Well, we found out on the week of consultation that they had changed the timeline and from the last time that we had reached out to them, and which had only been a couple weeks. And they had added an extra hour of reception time and didn't tell the band and wasn't going to tell the band. And so the agency, the band caught this mistake, and we brought it up to the planner, and the planner was just like, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You need to call the client. And I'm like, whoa, they hired you to handle all this stuff. How do you not know what's in all of their vendors' contracts? And you have not went through and itemized each and every single one of these contracts and know specifically how their timeline is going to lay out for the entire day. That's not my job. That's your job. And so
you're right.
And so thankfully we were able to reach out to the client and smooth it over and explain that this is the contract that you had. And if you'd like to extend this time, there's ways we can do that, but it's not going to be for free, unfortunately. And so we settled on a solution that seemed right for everyone. And, but it's things like that, it's really hard for a client to pick up on, any of these things because they've never done it before. Chances are this is, I don't know what the statistic is as far as, weddings and stuff and people getting remarried and then doing the whole process over again. I'm sure you or somebody in this, this agency might know, but I feel like it's so astronomically high that they're never going to have any experience to draw back off of. You know what I mean? So it's hard,
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of the minimum, right? So we kind of offer multiple types of packages for our clients, and the minimum package is our month out coordination package. So even if our clients are pretty much doing the wedding themselves, we're going in there and making sure that the contracts are reviewed, that the timelines make sense based off our knowledge of how long the events are, and making sure that everyone is up to date on that. So yeah, I agree. That's definitely a breakdown in the communication, and that's I'm sure difficult for not only you as a hired vendor, but for the couple as well. So
ultimately it just makes us, it makes us the bad guy, and that's we never want to be the bad guy. We want to be the guy that you like. We want to be the guy that you're excited to hear. We want to walk in with good vibes, like from the start. We want to be joyful and thankful to be there, and then show you how thankful we are through our musical performances. But yeah, sometimes things break, things break down. And, even when you have the best laid intentions. So.
Yeah. So we talked about a bad situation, but what about a good situation? When have you had like an awesome planner that's done some amazing work with you as a vendor?
So, this one's easy for me. There was a wedding that we had right at the beginning of the pandemic. It was right, maybe right before the pandemic. When the world knew nothing,
right,
and we were just still partying. So the end of the night, there was a transitional part, which is just becoming a really cool aspect of a lot of modern style weddings. I would say is that they're doing like the late night DJ party afterwards, after the band kind of thing, and there's like this transition point. Well, we had tried to get everybody to move over because, as getting people to move to different areas and shut places down and then tear them down, especially after a night of partying, can be a little hard. And
yes.
And so the planner was at her wit's end. Like, the band had announced 3 or 4 times, please move to this area. Nobody is doing it. And the planner comes up to one of the band, or the band owner of the band that I represent, Super Deluxe, great band. He's been doing this for 12 years out of Charleston. Unbelievable. Check him out. But he took his horn and he was like, I've got a solution to this. And so it was like a 10 or 12 piece band. And he got he got one of the drummers to hold a drum and beat it. And then the whole band turned into like the second line thing, and they started doing.
Oh, I love that.
They started trying to get everybody into a Congo line, and so
Mm-hmm.
and everybody was like totally into it. So he,
Of course.
a couple of cycles around the whole thing, and then he led them right on down to the DJ area, and it was like, saving the day for getting all these vendors out of there at the end of the night that had been working all day and everything. So improvisation within improvisation within the night of music sometimes saves everybody. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I agree. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing like a second line.
right.
And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to actually experience one in New Orleans, but man, it is a blast. And that is definitely a creative way to kind of, because you're right. I mean, that after people have had some cocktails in them, they're not ready to go home. They're feeling a little loose and having some fun, and they don't want to leave. So
Right. And we don't want you to go home. We just want you
right.
to go over there.
That's right. That's right. We're not trying to tell you to go home, but just go over there.
Yeah.
Well, you told me some great things about working with some planners. Tell me what it maybe is like your best the greatest compliment you've received as a wedding vendor.
Honestly, for me, curated music, music is the heart and soul of like who I am and has been since I discovered it. Ever since I really started, I got my first guitar when I was 18. I started playing when I was 22, real seriously. And then it's been my, the career, the rest of my life. When I rehearse a band, or I see one of my bands that I represent rehearsing and carefully working out transitions and then executing that day of, and literally keeping the party moving. Like every note is just, dead on, everybody's just in the groove, from a musical perspective, which may be hard
Right.
to articulate to people who are not musicians. But if you're a musician of any kind, or you've been in a room where, a band is playing and they're so good, it just like it captivates you. When we're able to, there's always one moment in a night where I feel like there's like we get to that chance to really reach that next level. If the party's bumping, people are having a great time, they're dancing, everybody's singing along. And then, there's like just there's like that fine gray area that if you can somehow figure out how to get there from there, it blows the party, up. It's like the equivalent of like, a huge bass drop in like EDM music or something.
Yeah.
All this build up. And then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody loses their mind.
Exactly.
Being like, as a musician guy, working and tailoring music for our people, and working out arrangements of these songs that are ours and unique to us as an agency, finding the right band for the job, and then the craftsmanship of putting the rehearsal time in to make every musical part of the day perfect. That's what I'm there for. That's why I'm here. That's what I live for. I love perfection within music as much as it can be. I mean, there's always beautiful musical surprises that occur every gig you have. But yeah, I mean, the biggest compliment that anybody could ever give me is that they were just absolutely in love with the band, and that they were absolutely in love with the customer experience leading up to the communication, the ability to, just deliver on what we promised, because it is a big investment to hire a band. And there's a lot of moving parts to it, and it's not easy. So just hearing those words at the end, as long as they're happy at the end of the day, it really makes me happy. So
that's great. Yeah, that's great. Sounds like you've got it, all figured out, that great process, that great communication, and then delivering a great experience. So, tell me right before we wrap up here, what's the best way to reach you? How can clients follow you? What's the best way to reach out if they're interested?
Sure. Yeah, shindigmyevent.com is always great. You'll see our menu of bands there, if you will. And there's new ones coming on the horizon too, which I'm really excited about. We serve basically anywhere in the Southeast pretty regularly and routinely. So we're very happy to, accommodate you wherever you are. We also do fly dates and stuff too. So we don't actually get a chance to do that too terribly often. It just seems like our calendar gets filled up in our region. But if you are going somewhere and you really like what we do, we will come with you. I have extensive planning and logistics as it pertains to music and sound systems, etc. So chances are, wherever you're going to have a wedding, I can facilitate the entire event, from just my 17 years of travel in the United States and abroad, and the thousands of musicians that I have in my phone book. So chances are I can get for you whatever it is you want, and that's something that we actually really love to do. Just the other day, I got a call from a bride, and she said, "Hey, I want a grand piano to be rolled out for one song for me to sing to my husband in the middle of the
Wow.
reception." And I said, "Okay, cool, no problem. I'll make it happen." So I'm very happy to get dirty and get creative about how to come up with these solutions. So we actually I called around and I found a grand piano company for their price to come in day of and bring it out and stuff. So there's no challenge that's too much for us. We actually thrive on the idea of thinking outside of the box and doing crazy things. So that's why we named our company Shindig, right?
That's right.
So that's Shindig My Event's great. Jacod at shindigmyevent.com, spelled with the C. But yeah, those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me. Instagram,
Perfect.
all the things. I'm there. So
Great. Well, we'll link all your information in the description box. And thank you so much. This has been terrific. Thank you for joining me today.
thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It was really awesome to catch up with you.
Absolutely. If you're listening today and you're interested in earning your certification in wedding planning, the Bridal Society is the very best decision that you could make. The members of this organization feel more like family than colleagues. And the Bridal Society provides lifetime free membership once you complete your certification, which includes countless benefits. You can visit www.thebridalsociety.com for more information. If you'd like to receive an exclusive discount code, be sure to message me. Again, my name is Matt Mitchell, owner of Mitchell Event Planning. Join me next month as I interview another fantastic wedding professional.